It's me, Anna Kibble, your partner for everything real estate. Let's talk about the Denver metro area. Of course, I'm a real estate professional in the Denver metro area. And if you're not from here, if you're thinking about moving here, if you need to relocate, or even if you are settled in one area of the metro and are looking at exploring others, where would you go? Why would you move there? Why are people choosing to live in the part of the town they choose to live in? So let's take a look. I'm going to pull a map of the metro area up on my screen. Who would live here and why? Let's take a look. Okay, so I'm zoomed pretty far out at this point. So you'll see Denver right here in the middle. And kind of this big circle, the green on the side, the west side of town, that is where the mountains begin. And there's this kind of transition area called the foothills, where the mountains are kind of rolling and not so steep, and they're fairly populated. We have a lot of people who live in the foothills. Denver, you'll see, is actually not in that green. While Denver is hilly and there are definitely some elevation changes, the Denver metro area is predominantly on the plains. So you'll see fairly flat land. And if you're anywhere in Denver and you look out to the east, you're going to see great expanses of flat land. And if you look to the west, you're going to see the mountains. And so that's our compass here. Which direction are we going? I don't know. Where are the mountains at? Um, so mountains are to the west, gives us our bearings. All the way up north here, we've got this little town of Longmont. Now, Longmont's not really in the Denver metro area, but it kind of creates um, the northern boundary at this point. If you live in Longmont, you may feel like you belong more to Boulder, which is over here, just kind of nestled in this little valley off of the foothills here. Boulder, you might feel like you belong to some of the cities up north, like Fort Collins or Loveland. You might associate more with those. But what we're seeing right now is we're seeing development in the Denver metro area start to really creep up north towards Longmont, and we'll take a look at that. So Longmont to the north, out to the east, we've really got like Bennett and Watkins are kind of the eastern towns right now, that create the border of the Denver metro area. Down south, we go to Castle Rock. Castle Rock's really the southernmost city in the Denver metro area. Past Castle Rock, it gets a little rural for a few minutes, and then the Colorado Springs metro area kind of starts to pick up. On the west side of town, you'll see there's almost what feels like a hard stop, the metro area, as you're going along the ridge where the mountains begin. Golden's one of the cities that's kind of nestled right there, gateway to the Rockies, in Golden. Beautiful town, beautiful town. But you'll see here in Conifer and Evergreen, some of these kind of closer in foothill cities. You know, they're still fairly Denver adjacent, and a lot of people who live in these kind of close in mountain towns will commute in and out of the city. So really, I feel like they're part of the Denver metro area. Okay, so what do we need to know about Denver? Well, the closer you get to where it says Denver on the map, the more expensive your home's going to be, generally speaking. And we are starting to see a substantial amount of development kind of outside of the circle, especially to the east. As you can imagine, to the west here, there's not a lot of places to go, right? So these mountain towns are growing slightly, but there's really not a lot of room to expand. And to the south, they're starting to grow together a little bit as well. But really, most of the expansion and development is happening here to the east and up to the north. So these areas between Longmont and Denver are really booming right now, because they're proving to have relatively easy commute times. Okay, so I-25 is the main interstate that runs north and south through the Denver metro area. And so, easy access to the interstate for commuting into the metro area. Um, Frederick, Firestone, really seeing a boom right now. Erie has had a lot of new home development in that area. And then Johnstown, which is still so small. It's up north here. So yeah, we're starting to see lots of new development in these areas at really fairly affordable prices, especially compared to the rest of the Denver metro area. We're seeing the same thing as you go kind of the northeast Denver metro area. Watkins and Bennett having a little bit of a boom right now, especially for people who are commuting to Denver International Airport. Now, isn't this so funny, you guys, how far away the airport actually is from Denver? It really is. You've got a fairly decent commute from, downtown Denver or from Denver proper into the airport, which I think is another reason why these northern suburbs are really starting to boom. E470 here that's running along is a toll road, but it really, really cuts the commute time pretty substantially. So if you are an airport commuter, these communities are going to be really, really attractive. And so is Watkins and Bennett, and they're really starting to grow. Okay. So one of the fastest growing communities in the Denver metro area in the past few years has been this area called Reunion, which is right here. It's airport adjacent. It's really close to interstates and access for commerce. It's a good place for commuters. A ton of new development happening in Reunion. So brand new homes at about the lowest starting prices in the entire Denver metro area to live in Reunion. So great little area out east here, a really good place to kind of land if you think you're going to be working a lot from the airport, if you really want new development. That's a good community for that. Lots to do out in the Reunion area also. This area just south of the airport has been developing quite a bit right now too. So sandwiched kind of in between the airport and Buckley Air Force Base. It's now the Space Force Base, right? So between the airport and Buckley. Lots of great housing options here. Lots of new development starting kind of lower end pricing between Green Valley Ranch and Aurora Highlands. Those are really excellent starting points for new construction. Now, Green Valley Ranch has been established for a little while, but you will still see newer construction here. And some really good price points if you're entering the housing market. And commuting is pretty good from these areas too. You're right off of the main east-west corridor in the Denver metro area here, which is I-70. So Interstate 70 running east and west, I-25 running north and south. So you've got some really good commuting options there too. As you go south, you've got the city of Aurora. It had a lot of press these days, the city of Aurora, but great place on the eastern side of the Denver metro area. The second largest city in the metro area after Denver. So Aurora, great community for commuters. Once again, right? Lots of interstate and highway access inside in Aurora. And you've got a couple of water features here. Now, water features, reservoirs really is what they are pretty rare in the Denver metro area. Our elevation is high, our climate is dry, water is a luxury. And so you're not going to find a lot of natural lakes in the Denver metro area or in Colorado as a whole. What you're really going to find are reservoirs. And so that's what you're going to see here. You have Cherry Creek Reservoir and State Park. This is wonderful recreation space. You can boat and paddleboard and, fish and swim and do all of those things at Cherry Creek Reservoir. And then you've got Aurora Reservoir over on the side. This area on the southeast side of Aurora is a newer part of town. So you've got lots of new home development heading out and around Aurora Reservoir. So you've got great recreation going there. As we continue our trek down south, we hit the town of Parker. So Parker's the southeasternmost area of the Denver metro area, and it is sprawling. So takes up a lot of real estate in Parker, all the way down here, all the way to the Pinery. All of this is considered Parker. So it's a huge community out in Parker. You'll find the vast majority of it is going to be suburban type, HOA, platted developments, newer developments in general, from about the 2000s, Parker really started to boom. And then you'll see a lot of like 2010 construction, especially on the east side. So Parker is a new-ish construction in a lot of places, but then also has a great mix of rural and semi-rural properties. Like if you go down to the Pinery, you're going to see larger lots, semi-rural properties, a little bit older, more established homes down here. So really great area, good for southern commuting. We've got a whole lot of industry that's happening on the south side of the Denver metro area, and Parker's a great place for commuters there. We go to the very southern part of the Denver metro area. We've got Castle Rock. Castle Rock is a nice mix of suburban kind of platted HOA communities with a handful of well-established non-HOA communities in here as well. They've got a super fun little downtown area in Castle Rock, but it is really growing. And you'll find a little bit of, more rural and kind of properties with some elbow room. We go out east, we've got Elizabeth. And so this is the more rural part of the Denver metro area. If you want to have, if you're looking to have a few acres and, horses, you can find some rural kind of infill, particularly on the east side of town. But Elizabeth is where a lot of people will go for a great kind of small town feel, and still being pretty close, pretty accessible to services. There. As you head back up, we've got the Littleton Highlands Ranch area. So this southern kind of chunk of the Denver metro area, for the most part is Littleton. Littleton expands up to this 285 corridor all the way down around Lone Tree. Highlands Ranch is one of the areas of Littleton. It's its own little large development. There we've got Ken Carl, Columbine. So some great communities inside of Littleton. There is not a ton of new home development on the west side of town like there is on the east side of town, but there are still some infill projects inside of Littleton, so you can still find new construction if that's what you're looking for. But generally speaking, you're going to find more established neighborhoods inside of the Littleton area. But we've got a big new construction process coming on right down here under Chatfield Reservoir, Chatfield State Park. So once again, a really great recreation area, awesome state park, lots of boating and paddleboarding and swimming and fishing and biking and hiking and all of those things in the Chatfield State Park area. And a really big new development project that's happening to the south here of Chatfield. All right, then we come up on the mountains. So here, pretty much west of I-25, you're going to be looking at homes that have opportunities for really spectacular mountain views, depending on where they're at. Lots of these homes might back to open space or green belt and hopefully have mountain views there as well. It's one of the perks of being on this side of town is you're really close to recreation and mountain access, but you also have some really good highway infrastructure for commuting. We head up to the Lakewood Golden area. These are different older and more established parts of the Denver metro area as you head through Lakewood, Golden, Arvada. So you're going to have kind of a older suburban feel here. These are excellent communities for people who want to live in or near Denver, who enjoy a more urban environment, who like to have really walkable neighborhoods. You'll have lots of neighborhood restaurants and shops and things like that kind of inside of these western suburbs, as well as here in Denver proper. As we head up north, and the mountains really start to kind of creep in on you as you get sandwiched between the Denver and the Boulder area. But so you've got Westminster, Thornton, Northglenn. I know similar to some of the southern suburbs like Littleton, you'll find a few newer construction and infill projects, but generally speaking, you're going to find some more established communities inside of the Denver metro area here. And a lot of people in the Westminster, Broomfield area may also be commuting into Boulder as opposed to the Denver metro area. The fun part about this is all roads eventually lead into Denver. We've got fairly decent highway infrastructure around, and the vast majority of these roads are also free highway and interstates. We've got just a couple of toll roads around the metro area, but most of the commuting is free, which is definitely a benefit. All right, well, that's the dog telling me it's time to go. All right, thanks so much. Let me know if you have questions or if you're looking for help finding your next home in the Denver